Do you have a story to share with the world? Of course you do. We all have stories to share. An Anchor podcast allows you to share your interests in a way that connects to others all across the globe. If you have been considering starting your own podcast and don't know where to begin, Anchor makes it easy to record, edit, and publish with the click of a button. You can even add music. Whether it's crime dramas, self improvement, paranormal adventures, or tips about parenting, you too can share your unique imprint on the world. Download the Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started today. You've got this. I believe in you. Welcome to the Existential Empath Podcast. My name is Tanya, and I am an intuitive empath. My intention is to share valuable tools and techniques that I have learned so you can tap into your own inner healer naturally and intuitively. Welcome back, everyone. I hope everyone is doing well. We have a really exciting episode for you today. We are going to dive into the healing benefits of meditation. And I have a special guest here with me today. His name is David Sandercott. And David has been teaching and coaching meditation for nearly 20 years, and he's been helping people reach happiness and peace. He's also published a book as well. So welcome, David. Thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, thanks. For anyone that wants to know, the book is 21-Day Meditation Journey, Connect with Spirit Every Day in a New Way. And you can get that for free as an ebook at davidsandercott.com, or you can purchase it on Amazon.
Awesome. That's so exciting. So yeah. I have not done any shows on meditation, and I was kind of just putting it out there into the universe. Who do I know who has a lot of information on this topic? And then boom, David pops up on my Facebook feed, and I'm like, I've got to reach out to him to get some more information about this. So let's dive into what is meditation, David. How do you explain it? How do you teach it? How do you coach people on how to get into these different brainwave states? And let's talk about it from like a beginner standpoint or a basic level for people who this may be a new concept for them.
Yeah. Well, what is meditation? Was that the first question?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's a good question. So we know each other because I was looking to, because I still am, but because I was looking to move to Northern Idaho, right?
Yep.
And so, things have changed. Prices have gone up so much there. I went back to Michigan, and I'm exploring Michigan and Ohio, particularly the Upper Peninsula. Like I'm car camping, and I'm like having this wild, grand adventure. And I'm really love the Upper Peninsula. And I'm talking to lots of people up here, and there's lots of churches, and it's a really Christian, strong environment. Which, I mean, it makes sense that I would attract that. And so those are the people that I'm attracting. And I'm asking them about meditation, and like they all basically say it's the devil or Satan, or yeah. I mean, it's because they're really fundamental, and their whole, like, the woman took psychology and sorry about that. She took psychology in college. She was a psychology major, and they taught her. This was maybe in the 70s, but they all said the same thing, that the teaching was to quiet your mind. That's what meditation is. Sit there and quiet your mind. And so that would be the Satan, because you're trying to do something instead of letting God work through you. So I got to the bottom of why they sort of feel like that way. But the reality is that that's the terrible teaching. That's the most common thing that you're going to hear from someone teaching meditation on YouTube, or the college professor in psychology. They're going to tell you, sit there and clear your mind. You tell me right now how you do that. How do you stop mental effort with mental effort? You can't do that. So that's just silliness. It's coming, so you're starting from the fruit of a poisonous tree. So where you're coming from, you're off in the foundation. That is not what meditation is about. You cannot sit there and quiet your mind. It doesn't work like that. Okay. But yoga has 8 limbs. And we're just going to kind of skip over the first ones, but the physical practices, ways to live your life, nonviolence. And we get up to the 5th limb is pratyahara, which is you generally hear people chanting the name of God, or doing maybe a mantra,
like a mantra.
Repetition of the name of God is how I would describe it. And then the next limb is Dharan. I'm not super. I try not to use this language. So the next limb is concentration. It's basically single pointed concentration. And so that's where I like to meet people at. That's where I'm going to meet you at. And if you're lucky, you'll get glimpses of meditation. Meditation is a state of being in which you're not there anymore.
Yeah, true.
In which, you're not there anymore. So traditionally, that's Dhyan. That's what people say. What kind of meditation do you teach? If somebody's teaching you a type of meditation, you're probably learning something that isn't meditation. I'm just going to be flat out with you. Dhyan, that is meditation, and that's a state of being, and traditionally you sort of need to be around an enlightened or someone who has a much higher consciousness than you to help you get in that state.
Into those altered states of consciousness.
Well, hold on. I didn't say altered states of consciousnness. Because there's two different things. There's altered states of consciousness, which is another thing that's sold as meditation. And then there's meditation, which it's consciousness. It's not a different state. It's not an altered state. It's the most accurate state
like awareness.
To describe the most accurate state to describe the self, what you are, right? Like who am I? What am I? You're not your body and you're not your mind. So what are you? Jesus tells you to know thyself. They tell you to know every know thyself, right? Ramana Maharshi says the only useful purpose for this life is to discover the self. And so again, I was talking about that with the Christians, and they thought that was the devil. And it's like they don't understand the self is just another word for God, for all that is, for all that ever was, for consciousness, spirit, the divine, whatever you want to call it. So again, traditionally, most people don't ever actually experience Dhyan, even that meditate for their lives. Dhyan is a very special state. And then above that is Samadhi. And that's the highest form of meditation. So this is when, you begin, there's no longer a meditator, a point of meditation, or a meditation, right? This is when you're getting into these states. This is how you enlighten. This is how you become one with all that is, I guess, is a good way to say it, the oneness. Okay, so is this making sense? Let me just stop and check in.
So how do we explain to someone how to get into this being, this consciousness that we call meditation? How do we explain it to someone?
Well, we do that by practicing. Yeah, it's real simple. I started meditating in 1998, and I just did it. I don't know. I focused on my breath. Okay. So that's where I started. That was like the very first thing. And that's the most beginner. So you just focus on your breath. But what the point of it is it's a single point of focus. So whether it's your breath or it's a chakra, those are all starting points. But, why mess around with all that? Let's just go to the good stuff. And it's just single pointed attention at the point between your eyebrows. Jesus said, when thy eye is single, you will see the light. He didn't say it in those exact words, but it goes like that. It's Krishna teaches that is the proper meditation, to put all your attention at the point between your eyebrows.
So the pineal gland, the third eye, the ajna, or that focus.
And you don't need to know any of those words or to know what any of those things mean to benefit from this, because I didn't. It's not that those things aren't important, but it's the concentration. And this is the point. So you close your eyes. You really can't meditate laying down. There's going to be people that tell you can. It's like you think of your spine as an antenna, and it's like a radio, right? If the radio antenna is down, you're not going to pick up as good a signal. Okay. So you want to be able to get a good signal. So you don't have to sit in the lotus position or even cross-legged. I sit cross-legged. I can't sit in the lotus or half lotus. Sitting with your knees on the floor is fine. With your heels together is fine. You want to be comfortable. That's what's important. Spine up. Close your, if it's comfortable, you can roll your eyes in the back of your head. For a lot of people, it took me years to be able to do that. So if that's uncomfortable or causes a headache, you just keep your attention here. And what's going to happen now is your mind, you're going to keep your attention here. Just do that. Okay. Keep bringing your attention back to that. Now your mind's going to go on for like pages of a story in your head, and hopefully, bring your point back to bring your attention back here. Surrender. You're letting it go. Just don't give it any attention. Never mind your mind. It doesn't mind. It's going to do that stuff. Just keep bringing your attention back to the point between your eyebrows. And what'll happen is, like I said, it'll get a whole storybook out, and then you'll catch it. And then it'll maybe just be a few pages, then maybe just a few paragraphs, maybe just a paragraph, and then maybe just a sentence or a word. And you'll get to a point where literally the energy, you let go of the energy of the thought before the thought happens. So this is the single point of concentration. And this is what will bring us into the state of dhyan or meditation.
Interesting. So is there a suggestion on how long you should do this daily to practice this? Or, because I know some people will sit there for hours on end. Is there, for beginners, what do you suggest? Or is it just until you get to a point where you're at a paragraph versus a novel,
Yeah, well, it's a great question, and everybody's different. And, I'll just give you more the hard line answer is, I mean, if you're going to come to me and you wanted to lose weight, that's how I first started, 20 plus years ago as a fitness trainer. No, 3 days a week's not enough. No, a half hour a day is not enough. No, you got, 2 hours a day. If you want to get in shape, you really got to give yourself 12 hours a week, about 10 to 12 hours a week. So with meditation, it's like, that's what my teacher said to me. He said, an hour was his minimum.
Minimum. Okay.
And I said, well, but what, why do a half hour? I was trying to, I was selling, I was negotiating. And he said, well, how long do you work out for every day? And I got it right there.
Yeah.
Is God more, what's more important to you? What do you do an hour a day that's more important than God, spirit, the divine, than your mental health, your physical health? I mean, meditation benefits all areas of your life. So a real good goal to work towards is an hour. What is good for you is you just start and you sit, just do it every day. I don't care if it's 5 minutes, like that's how I started. And that's what I recommend. Just start and do it every day. And
so is there a better time of day to do it? Like right when you wake up in the morning, before you go to bed? Does it matter?
It doesn't matter. Well, I would say the best time for sure is first thing in the morning and before you go to bed at night. Those are two really good times. Sunset's a very good time. That being said, this is what I'd find. If I put too much emphasis on the importance of meditating in the morning, people will miss the morning and then just be like, oh, I missed it for the day.
Yeah.
And so it's like
it's like a workout.
Yeah, right. So it's like, yes, the morning is the best, because just think about what the morning is. The world's still quiet. Your mind's still quiet, right? It's just going to be easier to drop in. You just wake up. I mean, I wouldn't say this to like a yogi or to like some guy in India, but I make a cup of tea and I meditate. I brush my teeth and I have a cup of tea. People are always like, well, I want to have fine. Have your cup of hold it in your hand. That'll be enough. It's the warmth, and take a sip if you have to. You're still going to be meditating. It's not ideal, but it's like, make it easy, not hard. Make it fun, not agony.
Absolutely. And I know for me, when I do it first thing in the morning, it just sets the tone for my entire day, because it's relaxing my central nervous system,
Well, what happens when you don't meditate, when you miss a day?
I feel a little chaotic. I feel a little behind on things. When
I used it, but
I've been doing it for a long time.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. Everyone says the same thing. If they miss, it's that nothing's the same. The day doesn't go well. When I'm in my 20s, when I was in a sketch comedy troupe, they would know. Have you been meditating, David? They would know all the time.
That's hilarious. So let's dive into some of the benefits that people have received. And I know, just based off of my experience, I can talk about reduced stress 100%. I can talk about it helps with anxiety. Like in the moment, if I'm having a panic attack, to try and just really get into that state of concentrating, focusing on, the third eye area and lowering that blood pressure. I know for me, and I know for me, memory too. My memory got better when I started doing meditation. And those are just, I started it to reduce pain. Honestly, when I started to dive into it, I was having a lot of pain in my body. Didn't really realize at the time I was empathic. I was picking up a lot of energies in the job I was working in. And so that's when I started to really dive into meditation. So it can improve sleep as well if you do.
How did it work for you for pain management? How did it work for you for pain management?
Well, I got into what's called the void. I learned through Dr. Joe Dispenza. I learned how to get into the void, and I started to reprogram my subconscious thoughts in there. So this probably took it out of that meditation state, where you're just in the state of being. I was actually in there to reprogram. So I have done a ton of work on reprogramming the subconscious mind, and your body you can command things when you're in that void.
So how did it do? Did it work?
It totally works. Now I do this with clients.
Awesome.
This is what I do with clients.
Yeah, I've heard good things about it. Someone who I used to be in a group with.
Yeah, and so he teaches it a little bit differently, and I feel like there's different types.
There is, but if you're going to ask me, and I'm going to get specific and technical on you, because it technically that's not what he's doing. He's not teaching meditation.
Exactly.
And I'm sure he knows that on some level. But what he's doing is still, like you said, extremely helpful, right?
It is. And so I think it's like training wheels, it's like learning each step of the process and then taking it to the next level of understanding that this body is like a computer system, and we can get in there and we can shift our thoughts. We can shift the way our body reacts on a physical level. And so for me, I went in there and I was just boop, boop, boop. It's called the divine blueprint. So it's when you get in there and you can reset templates. And I'm going to do a podcast on this soon to dive a little bit deeper into this process. But that was something that I was guided to do in my meditations, so I think too, for me, it was very expansive. It just opened up my whole world,
Awesome. I'm thrilled to hear that.
Yeah. And so I want to dive a little bit into what's known as the Maharishi effect as well. And so, you and I had chatted about this before we started recording. And so basically what the Maharishi effect is, it's when an individual consciousness can affect the collective consciousness. And there's been over, 25 years of studies on this particular effect. And basically it started in India with one man who got a little group together, and they all started to do transcendental meditation. And what they began to notice was just this little 1% of the population was shifting the collective consciousness in these cities where they had massive amounts of crime or violence. And they began to notice that people started to change. And so it was almost like a directed intention. And I witnessed this working in the hospital when people were sick in a coma. The families would gather around them and they would do set intentions and focused prayer and focused, not necessarily.
Yeah, there's no doubt that helps, right? We all
know.
Yeah, there's no doubt.
And people would respond. People would totally respond. So I also witnessed this in Florida during the hurricanes. When we had a massive Category 5 hurricane, large amounts of people would gather when it was going to hit Miami. Large amounts of people would gather on the beach, and they would send focused intention towards that hurricane, and it would bounce to the other side. It literally was like a zigzag. It kept going back and forth because wherever it was going to hit, large amounts of people would go to that area and push it away. It was like their energy was so powerful.
Yeah. Well, let me talk to you about that real quick, because I don't want to think that I'm being negative or cutting any of this thing down. I'm not. But humans want to put everything in a cause and effect. In a this cue ball hits that cue ball, causes this cue ball. Okay, that's science, and that's the limit of the human mind. Okay, and then we go to spirituality, which is beyond the mind, right? It's beyond cause and effect. It's beyond what you can weigh, measure, and observe. It's only a subjective experience. Does this make sense? Following me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, so this is, everybody thinks A causes B causes C. But what really happens is X, we'll say, is causing A, is causing B, is causing C. And in fact, X is causing everything. And we call that spirit, we call that God, we can call that all these things you want. It just appears that other things are causing things.
Okay.
So we are all part of a collective consciousness, and we will all rise to the level of the C. So if you want to uplift the world, right? The people out there that want to like change the world, that's sort of naivete, right? You can't really change the world. The best thing you can do for the world is change yourself, is heal yourself and raise the level of the sea. So it's like we're all boats on the sea, right? And when you heal yourself and raise the consciousness, everybody raises the consciousness. So I mean, and everybody raises to their level of consciousness. It's like, so one of the things you'll hear a lot of people say is perception is reality, right?
Mhm.
And
What
that's
you
not
perceive, you believe, or what you believe, you perceive.
right.
Yeah.
But that would be false, right? That would be perception is not reality, right? That's a perception is not reality. Things may appear one way and be totally different, right? Like I use it's a kind of a hard example, but that the Michigan State gymnast guy who coached all the Olympic athletes and all the young girls. Are you familiar with what I'm talking
Yes,
about?
I know
And
you're
was
talking about.
loved and all
Yep.
this, and then he turned out to be right. So perception is not reality.
Uh-huh.
We could all see a movie and have different takes on it, right?
Absolutely. And you can change someone's perception through manipulation.
That's right. But reality will always be reality. Reality is what is permanent and unchanging. I'm kind of getting on off the track now because I know I want to get back to this Maharishi effect
Mhm.
and the consciousness. And so, I mean, people come together and they do stuff, and then again, it's like, it's like everything happens spontaneously as a result of God. Everything happens spontaneously as the result of the level of consciousness which is being experienced. Like I wouldn't recommend. And again, if you are practicing the Maharishi's meditation, it's positive. It's not negative, right? I'm a big fan of Dr. David Hawkins, and so without going into the scale too much, yeah, there's a scale from right in 200. It's that level of you want to avoid everything below 200. And so, anyways, the Maharishi would be the beginner on that scale, the very beginner. And just generally, paying a lot of money for like a mantra is whatever. Some people need that. I'm not it's good. It's not bad, but it's training wheels. It's not necessary. You don't have to do that. I don't really know what, of course, if everybody starts, it's everybody can only be what they are anyways. So it's like, forget about trying to save the world and just work on yourself and raise your own level of consciousness. And that's how you'll help lift up the consciousness of the world.
Absolutely. And through, Nikola Tesla talks about how everything is energy, frequency, and vibration. So when you start to work on yourself, you will attract others who are doing the same. And so you will attract like-minded people, which then as a result could probably result in the Maharishi effect without you even recognizing it's happening. So it's like, say you put on an event where you're teaching people how to, meditate, and then they're learning their own techniques. They're beginning to line up through a frequency, through a vibration. And that's what we all are. We are all oscillating in a certain frequency. And so when you start to harmonize, the universe is constantly harmonizing and trying to find balance. And so, whether you recognize it or not, you're doing a group event, a group meditation, and you're in your own, you're in your own individual technique or your own way of doing it. Eventually, there will be some sort of harmonization there, however that may look, based off of the frequency, energy, and vibration,
Sure.
Yeah. So what else? What else do we want to dive into here?
Well, I can talk about anything you want, but I know you had a couple questions. You asked the Maharishi effect. Did you have another question you wanted?
I wanted to dive a little bit into the brainwave states and how we can move into those different states. And I think a lot of people in the world right now are in what's a beta brainwave state. That's where you're just super alert. Your amygdala is just flying off the chain. You're in that fight, flight, or freeze response. And I know for me, learning the techniques of getting into a more alpha state, which is that 8 to 12 hertz roughly, it was beneficial for me. And that's where I think,
when I first started learning meditation from a teacher, this was where I started. This made the most sense. This is great for people to learn these brainwave states and to know about them. So when you the society is designed to keep you in a beta brainwave state. You could also say a fight or flight state, right? Our bodies are designed to be in an alpha or theta, right? High theta, low alpha state, or you could call that the sympathetic state, right, in the
Yes.
nervous system. And this is relax and recover.
Or the parasympathetic. Yeah.
Thank you, the parasympathetic. And so this is where we want to live, in this rest and recover, and in this ideal state. Everything in the world is designed to make you be in a beta state, and so you have to work hard, or put a lot of
like
effort.
Like a salmon swimming upstream.
Yeah, if you lived in the woods and you chopped wood and carried water and lived with nature, this would be your natural state. You wouldn't have to work at it. But so so from a scientific point of view, the reason why we put our at this attention is because it helps. Well, okay, so one, where our attention goes, energy flows, right? So we're helping develop the most undeveloped part of our brain. We're developing our sixth sense. We call this intuition, being able to understand the language of energy, whatever you want to call it, a sixth sense. And when we put our attention here, we're naturally helping our body. It's going to release hormones like serotonin and peptides and things that we like. And it's going to naturally help us get into that brainwave state, that alpha and then theta and sometimes even delta, like that, like how we're talking about like the different
gamma,
like the levels of meditation and stuff. And so it's like you can measure that, the dhyan, the samadhi, you can measure that with brain waves. They're going to have almost no brain waves. Yeah, now there's the gamma or whatever. It's like I said, I was super into that too. And so I'll just give you, a perspective of someone who's been doing this for 25 years and been around and done all this. It's like what I've learned, it's becoming hard to teach because the words are so meaningless and all the stuff. It's like you have to get through all this BS just to get to stillness and silence. But if you can hear me, if you can believe, just cut it all out and just go to the stillness and silence in your mind. I mean, that's what,
that's hard for people though.
Well, I know.
that's why I was like from a beginner level.
Hold on a minute though. It's as easy or as hard as you make it. And you're going to go through whatever you go through on your journey. It's all fun. You have to. I went through everything you've talked about. I've read it all. And the brain waves are a great place. Like when you talk about beginners, it's extremely helpful because it's data and it's scientific. But ultimately, it's like just keep going to the stillness and silence and find one really good teaching and just read that over and over again. It could be the 4 Gospels. It could be Dr. David Hawkins. It could be the Bhagavad Gita. It could be some sort of proven, it could be 12-step programs. 12-step programs are incredible. But just pick one, or the Course in Miracles, not the book, but the daily lessons. Like that, just do that. Like you don't even need to meditate 5 minutes a day and do that course or whatever, but just pick one thing and just go for it. And that'll be how you'll get the most progress. And
that's awesome. I love that advice. I think, and that's where I think people get confused is there's so many things. What do I do? And I think for me, what really helped me was pure tones, sound therapy, solfeggio frequencies, things that, because I resonant tune. So when I listen to the solfeggio, I can hum and I literally resonant tune. And this takes it all the way back to ancient Egypt. They used to do this in the pyramids. They did this in the sarcophagi. They did this where they would resonant tune the body.
They may not have, but what I will say, and I don't mean to cut you off, is that it's still training wheels. Totally. It's helpful. It's for the beginner. And if this stuff helps you, absolutely.
Yes.
But you'll eventually have to let it go.
Eventually. And I think that's what my intention with this podcast was to share the training wheels. And so that's why I think, this can be very new to people. Not everyone is an experienced 25-year, meditation coach. And I think,
but I didn't do any of that stuff.
Well, so we're all different. We're all on our own journey.
We're all
right?
different. We're all different. You don't need it. That's all I'm trying to say is people get into, they think they need this or they need that. And it's the most simplest thing. Just sit and be silent. And it is the training wheels. That is, if you went to a traditional training, it's not all those other things. All those other things are great. They're great. If they help you, they help you. And
Absolutely. I mean, I guess it's the same analogy going back to the weight training. You don't need all the weights and all of the equipment. You can do planks, you can do yoga, you can do things that will train your body the same. Everything is built within us. I think that's what we're coming back to, is that
that's right.
Everything's built within us.
Yeah, I wasn't going to bring up yoga. I don't, but that's a great, you just need a mat.
Yeah.
And you can be in great shape.
Absolutely. So I think, if there's something, for people that, to just start off with, what is the best recommendation you have is, you talked about just sitting straight up because you want your spine to be an antenna, right? And then just getting to a point where you can focus your concentration on your third eye, right?
Yeah. Let's talk about it because you're right. I'm being a kind of a hard, tough guy here. And so I think if you're a beginner, I used to have in the book I wrote, there's like the 5 P's, and I'm not going to remember them all, but I'm going to kind of, go through it a little bit because it's part of me. I know what I mean by it. And it's like people. So it's like, I didn't ever want to meditate around people. Like that was like weird. That was like, I never wanted to do that. And I did eventually. And I did. And now, I mean, I see there's so much benefit. So I recommend everyone find a group. I host 2 meditations a week. I have one next Monday. It's free. I don't know how my information will be somewhere. I'm sure.
But you're doing these live, or are they online, or?
Yeah, it's on via Zoom, and the next 2 Mondays I'm hosting free classes. One's a meditation, and then the other one is learning to let go. It's like I teach people, that's the most common sort of advice. It's like, you got to let that go, but no one tells you how to let it go. No one takes it, so I teach that. And so getting in a group, and it doesn't have to be my group. It could be like a church group, a Zen group, whatever it is, but keep holy company, keep spiritual company. That'll help you a real lot. And then the other thing is to have a place. It might not sound that important, but make a special place in your house where you sit every day. You can put an altar, some pictures, or whatever, and then purpose. And you have to have a purpose. This is a hard one for me to articulate. When I started meditating, God made me meditate. I don't know if that makes sense. It was a loud enough voice where I started.
You were guided to it, yeah.
Yeah, it wasn't a thing. But like now, meditation's so mainstream. It's like people are like, "Oh, that's something I want to get in." More and more people are wanting to get into it, and so you got to have like a purpose, if that makes sense.
Or like an intention. I mean, when you say
an intention is right, but it's like, why do you want to start to meditate? Because it's just like any new habit.
I see what you're saying. So I have anxiety. I want to reduce anxiety. I'm going to meditate. Or I want to connect with God. I want to meditate.
Yeah, it should be like that. Like I want to master myself, or I want to enlighten, or I want a big purpose. It was the foundation of my life because it was who I wanted to be. I don't know if that makes sense, but that'll help you the most, the purpose. And yes, anxiety, you have to, a lot of pain. Yeah, that's helpful. If you're in a lot of pain, that'll be helpful. Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that's good. That's awesome. Cause I think that's what the hardest thing I know with people that I work with are like, where do I begin? Where do I start? And I like that because that's simple. Now, what do you suggest for people? And this is a common thing that I hear often when they sit down to actually do this. How do they deal with outside noise and things going on? What is something that you can teach people to just kind of block that out or phase it into the consciousness or however it works,
Yeah. Okay. Let me just offer a free meditation session. If somebody listens to this and you're like, I want to like have a meditation training session, I'm going to offer you a free one. We'll have my information somewhere and you can call me and we'll do a session. Now, how do you block out noise? Okay. So it's just like, okay, you're going to sit and your mind's going to do all this stuff and you're going to bring your attention back to your eyebrow. Now, you know what else is going to happen? You're going to get all these itches all of a sudden. You didn't know and you're going to have to pee and you're going to want to move around.
Stomach growls.
That's the same thing as your mind doing its thing. This is what we are letting go of and surrendering. This is your ego likes to be in control. And this is saying, no, we're going to do something different. And the ego doesn't like that. So it's going to fight back. And so sounds will be amplified, right? You'll hear things. And it's like, just keep bringing your attention back to the point between your eyebrows. If there was like a jackhammer going, I might put my attention on the jackhammer. Put all my attention on the jackhammer.
Okay, I see what you're saying. So it's just getting into that flow, somehow finding that that void, that flow state. And I think that's for me, when I was starting meditation, using the sound frequencies with the headphones, that helped me learn.
Well, that's why it's helpful. It's going to get you into that state. Yes. So you are right. That's why it's
like playing a sport, right? Someone hands you a basketball and you've never played before. And you're like, what the heck do I do? You're like, I've got to start learning how to play the game so I can get good at it,
Yeah, you're right. I mean, listen, I listen to Dave Matthews. So that's what I tell people as you put on music. Dave Matthews was my first spiritual teacher. I went to states that were incredible, and it took me another decade to get back to. But it was Dave Matthews,
That's awesome.
But that's the other thing. I know this is kind of for beginners, so I don't need to go into that.
But no, that's great. And so, is there anything we're getting close to an hour here? Is there anything that you want to share that you think would be of benefit to people?
Well,
that maybe we didn't touch on.
Well, I mean, this is what I'll tell you. I started meditating in 1998, and in 2011, I was on the couch in the fetal position for 3 weeks. I just didn't have enough strength to end my life, or I might have. I mean, that's the only thing that I was thinking about. And, I struggled with surrendering my life to God, even, we'll say, up until this point, I guess we'll say, because I didn't really even, and I was just in so much pain. I got on my knees and I surrendered my life to God, and I started meditating 2 hours a day. And I haven't stopped since then. That's not true. On this road trip, I have sometimes only been meditating 1 hour a day. But
that's okay. You've been spending time in nature. That's almost just as good.
I have a lot of it. And I guess what I'm trying to say is that for 15 or 20 years, I experienced debilitating depression, anxiety attacks. Like the first time I had an anxiety attack, I was, what's going on? I'm in a parking lot. It was right before this, the depression and all that. And I still did have them for the next year. I had them in front of people, and I was going through massage school. I had several anxiety attacks. It was very embarrassing. People judge you. My teacher never told me that they were anxiety attacks. I didn't know what was going on. I was just freaking out. I don't have that stuff anymore. I don't get to, I mean, sure, I have bad days. Sure, sometimes I get down, but I definitely don't get debilitating depression, but I haven't had depression, period, since then. I might sometimes get anxiety, but I know how to immediately bring it back if I'm worried about something, and nothing that bothers me, certainly not attacks. And I'm generally more at peace and happier than most people I know. So
and now you have this tool in your toolbox, your spiritual toolbox, that you can pull out, and in those moments you can get yourself, you know how to balance it out.
Sorry, I don't mean to correct you a lot, but I like the whole thing that you did with the going into the void and reprogramming your knee. That's a tool. Meditation is a state of being. It's not something that you do 1 hour a day. So I shouldn't, because we beginners, maybe I should have started there. The goal of is to meditate all day long.
Yeah, I see where you're coming from. Okay, I see where you're coming from.
It's just like going to church on Sundays doesn't do that much. Jesus said, pray ceaselessly.
So it's a lifestyle.
It's a way of being.
Yeah, way
absolutely.
Of being. Okay.
Absolutely. Where are you going to keep your attention all day long?
I like that. Thank you. I haven't really seen it from that perspective. And that for me just expands my consciousness in that area to even have a deeper understanding of, I know when I'm in those states of being, most of the time it's in nature. I can really feel when I'm in alignment, with my own state of being is when I am in those natural states. And I always encourage people to get outside, get into nature, and whether they know it or not, they're meditating regardless.
That's right. No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely 100% correct. That's when, I mean, I've been asking people for 15 years when they feel most connected. Every single person, when they're in nature, there's a reason why. Like I was up in Eagle Harbor, Michigan, Upper Peninsula. This is as beautiful as Northern Idaho.
Uh-huh.
It's I like it as much. North of Bonners Ferry has it beat a little bit with the mountains. It beats it a little bit, Idaho. But and you know, I'm looking, and this family comes up on like their side by side, their 4-door, off-road vehicle, and the lady just steps out and she's like, "How can you not believe in God?" Because she's looking at this like majestic thing, and it was just like, you're absolutely right.
It is. I felt like that. There was a summer I went to Glacier National Park, Yellowstone, Crater Lake, Shasta. I was like, I am in the presence of God like nobody's business right now. I mean, you can just feel it when you look at
feel it. You cannot deny it.
Feel it, and you align with it, and you're like, oh my gosh.
So let's just wrap it up with this. This is, I'm not going to call it the Maharishi effect, because that's not what it is, but that's what we're talking about right here. What you want to do is get around high levels of consciousness, because that's when you can feel it. That's when you feel connected. So it's not just nature. There's books, there's talks, there's like the Buddha relics, if you can, the relics of St. Peter's and the Basilica in Italy. These are all things that just like being in Yosemite, you cannot not feel connected, right? Exactly. It changes you. You become a different state of consciousness. It's not an altered state. It's a different state of consciousness.
Gotcha.
Mm-hmm. And so that's what we want. And that is, the more we raise, the more all the ships raise.
Yes, absolutely. Well, I love that, David. So I appreciate you coming on. How can people reach you? If they want to reach out to you, they want to learn more, how can they contact you?
Yeah, it's a great question. I'm not even sure.
Because I know you're on this little journey right now.
Yeah, probably Facebook is honestly the best way. I'm going to be teaching a course called a 4-week Meditation Matters course. And it's going to be like a prelude to a bigger course. But I've taken a 8-month hiatus, and I'm just thinking about how I want to do the next portion of my life. And the focus of it is going to be teaching meditation and maybe even I don't really believe in certifying for meditation, but something like that, something where people can start teaching and spreading the love in that way. And like I said, I have these 2 classes coming up on the next 2 Mondays. And I would say you can go to davidsandercott.com and, the free gift. I think I even have it, like, I don't know, but definitely just go to davidsandercott.com and you can get in my email list, and you can contact me on there, or just connect with me on Facebook, and I'll give you the link, and that's a great way. And I'll invite you into my meditation group on Facebook.
Great. And I'll add all this information below our YouTube video, as well as the podcast, for people to have that access to you. Well, I appreciate you coming on, David. This was very enlightening.
You having me.
Very a new perspective for me, a new way to look at, what. And this was even meditation. I thought that I was doing it one way, but now it's like, I really need to shift my thoughts around this and see how I can change my own perception on what I am doing personally.
Well, let me just point this out for beginners. This is the attitude required: an openness and a willingness to be wrong and a willingness to learn. And I'm not saying I'm right and you're wrong.
Well, and that's it. None of us are wrong. It's all a journey, right?
It's all a journey. You know what I mean. But that's this little languaging. But yes. So also, thank you for sharing that with me. I mean, I noticed that you did take it very well, and I see you smiling, and that's what it takes.
Absolutely. Well, thank you. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
You deserve to navigate your life as an empath in alignment with health, happiness, and abundance. To learn more about the services that I provide, including Beyond Quantum Healing Hypnosis, EFT tapping, and the Emotion Code, visit my website at www.thesoulcafe.org.